Good day, students. How are you today? So I hope that you are just doing just fine in your houses, and I also hope that you are ready to learn another topic for today. So just sit back and relax. Alright, so last meeting we have already discussed the definition of communication, its elements, and the three modes of communication. But before we begin the long discussion, let me share to you this quote first. Push yourself because no one else is going to do it for you. Okay, so hinaot unta nga di mo tapulan magtanaw ani nga video para inyo ra gyud ni. Remember, you are responsible of your own learning. So make sure to finish this video at the very end. Fighting! Okay, so in this video, these are the following learning objectives that we need to achieve. First, differentiate accurately the three communication models, specifically the Shannon and Weaver model, transactional model, and the Osgood-Scram's model of communication. Second, integrate open-mindedly the concept of these models of communication into real-life situations. Third, create their own model of communication through a mind mapping activity. In this video, we are going to talk about some communication models. Actually, there are many communication models. We have Aristotle model, Laswell's model, Berlow's SMCR model. We also have Shannon and Weaver model, Scram's model, and Dan's helical model. But we are only going to discuss the three basic and common communication models, such as Shannon and Weaver's model of communication, transactional model of communication, lastly, Osgood-Scram's model of communication. Okay, before we go deeper to the three different communication models, I know that some of you are wondering, why do I need to know the different communication models? Importante ba ni siya? Kaya kung dili importante nga nung tunan pa man, diba? Pero for your information class, this concept is really necessary. Why? Ano man? It helps us understand the communication process easily and logically. It also shows how information flows from one person to another person. So communication is really a very important part of our daily routine. If you know how communication really works, there's a higher possibility that you can avoid misunderstanding with other people. Take for example, nakiuyab, nga nag-away pagid mo. Since love man kaayo ni siya, what is the first thing that you will do to make him or her stay? Unsa man kuno be? Diba? The answer is to communicate. Communicate dapat. And if you don't know how to communicate effectively, ang ending, broken-hearted jud ka, mabuwagan jud ka. So if dili ka ganahan mabuwagan, you really have to know how communication really works. So that's why we have here the different communication models so that you will be guided on how to communicate with other people. Alright, so let's discuss the first communication model, and we have the Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. So I have here a short video that I want you to watch. In this video, you will know how Shannon and Weaver came up with this kind of model.
Shannon Weaver model of communication was created in 1948 when Claude L. Wood Shannon wrote an article entitled A Mathematical Theory of Communication. In Bell System Technical Journal, with Warren Weaver. Shannon was an American mathematician, whereas Weaver was a scientist. The mathematical theory later came to be known as Shannon Weaver model of communication, or mother of all models.
Alright, so now let's proceed to the concepts of this model. First, we have Shannon Weaver's model of communication is again considered as the mother of all models. Why? Nganong siya man ang inahan sa tanang models? Okay, the answer is it's because of its wide popularity, meaning sikat kay siya. And it also includes the concept of sender, message, signals, channel, noise, receiver, decoding, and encoding, which are considered as important elements of the communication process. Diba we've discussed those elements naman earlier? Okay, so kung sa tao pa di ay, kani si Shannon and Weaver's model of communication kay sikat kaayo. Kay ngano, complete package na. Naan na niya tanan. Suraan, buutan, responsable, dato o kamao. So maong sikat ka siya sa mga tao. So again, that is Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. And that model is considered as the mother of all models. So don't forget. Next, this model is also known as information theory or the Shannon theory, simply because Shannon was the main person who developed this theory, meaning siya ginaguna-una og develop ani nga theory. Lastly, in this model, communication is considered as linear or one-way process, meaning the sender is the only one who sends the message. The receiver cannot give his or her feedback, meaning maminaw ra ang audience. This happens in mass communication such as public speaking, seminars, o kani atong gibuhat karon. Di ba you cannot give your feedback kay ako ra may nagsulti because this is a recorded video. So ingana ang Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. Ang speaker ra gyud ang magstorya and walay response na mahitabo. That's why this model, which is Shannon and Weaver's model of communication, is considered as linear or one-way process. Alright, now let's proceed to the elements of the Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. Actually, we have discussed some of the elements in our previous discussion, so let's just go over with it again. First, we have the source. This is actually just the same with the sender, the source of information or the message. Next, we have transmitter. The sender is the one who acts as the transmitter. This is just the same with the process of encoding, wherein the sender converts the message into signals or symbols such as words, actions, or other forms that the speaker understands. Next, we have the channel. This refers to the medium or the means used in the communication process. Next, we also have the receiver. This refers to the recipient of the message or someone who decodes the message. And lastly, we have the destination. So, the receiver and the destination is actually just the same. So, this refers to whom the message is meant for. Okay, now let's look at the diagram of this model. As you can see, communication starts from information source or the sender, the one who sends the message. And then the sender starts to transmit or encode his message through signals. So he can use words, actions or pictures in relaying his message. And then the sender chooses what channel to use. So, magamit ba siya cellphone para i-text or i-chat ra niya? Or pwede siya magamit og laptop para i-email ra niya iyang message? Or he can use handwritten message if ganahan siya handwritten kay kugihan siya musuwat. And then, the receiver then receives the signals sent by the sender. So, ang receiver will be the one to decode the message. He will understand the message that was sent to him. And also, receiver also serves as the destination or for whom the message is meant for. And as you can see, there's a word noise here. Noise refers to anything that interferes with the communication process between the speaker and the receiver. So noise is just the same with the barrier. Basin maglibog mo ka lain ng term, pero they are just the same. So again, noise refers to anything that interferes with the communication process. So, wala na siya feeling gani class nga na may crush. And then, hapit na unta mo magkauyab. And then, naamin naabot nga laing nagdagtipan. So, ang ending, sila nagkadayon. So, ing ana ang noise class. It acts as a barrier in the communication process. Kung sa Bisaya pa, sagapal lang yun siya. Okay? And then noise can be both external and internal noise. External noise means a physical noise. Take for example, nagstorya mo sa imong crush. And then, ready na unta ka mo confess niya nga ganahan ka niya. Moto, pag ingon ni mo nga, "Hi crush, I like you." Sus mo si pag-agi sa aeroplano. So, perting sa baa. So, ang ending, wala siya kadungog, di ba? So, wala jud nagkakamo. Sad story, di ba? And that is an example of a physical noise. So, to avoid that kind of disturbance, so make sure nga ato mo magstorya sa mingaw nga lugar. Okay? Next, we also have the internal noise. So this is the opposite of external noise. Internal noise refers to a mental disturbance, meaning to say, naa sa sulod ang problema. So bisag unsa pa nakahilom ang lugar, bisag unsa pa nakamaayo mo discuss imong teacher, if the receiver is not paying attention, then wala gyapon kwenta. Okay, take for example in our situation right now. So, sige kong yo-yo diri, sige kong discuss. But I cannot see what you are thinking right now. I cannot say whether you are really paying attention to every word that I say. So, basin day ang uban diha, kay gito ka pa, ang uban kay gutom na, kay wanamahaw, ang uban kay nagsige nag-ampong nga mga maning nga video kay para makaduwag ML, or uban kay excited na kaayong chats lang uyab. So if you are one of those people that I've mentioned, meaning to say, I do not have your full attention. Okay? So, bisag unsaon pa na kong discuss diri, di gyap mo makasabot because the problem is within you. You are not ready to receive the information that I am passing to you because your mind is too preoccupied. Daghan kay mo ginahuna karong orasa. And that, my dear students, is an example of an internal noise. And to avoid this kind of noise, make sure to clear your mind before watching this video. Okay? So I hope that you can already differentiate external noise from internal noise. Now, as what I've mentioned earlier, the Shannon and Weaver's model of communication is very popular. That's why it's considered as the mother of all models. Kay complete package na lagi. And it consists all the basic elements of the communication process. However, bisag unsa pa ka perfect ang tan-aw sa mga tao nimo, you have and will always have a flaw or an imperfection. Same with this model. almost perfect, diba? But it lacks one important element in the communication process, which is the feedback. Wala siya feedback. And feedback is a very important element in the communication process because it tells whether the receiver has understood the message or not. This is the time wherein the receiver gives his or her reply to the sender. Same maguna sa kanang feeling gani class nga. Bisa kung saon ang chat sa mong crush, bisa kung saon ang good morning, ikaw na ka, sweet dreams, good night, di kihapon mo replyan. Meaning, walang feedback. The Shannon Weaver model kate, ay kagool na pilain. Kasabot? So that's the disadvantage of that model. Again, it has no feedback. Questions? So if you have some clarifications, you can ask me tomorrow. Now, let's proceed to the second model of communication, which is the transactional model of communication. Now, para mas masabtan ninyo, let's imagine na kato si Shannon and Weaver's model is your crush number 1. While kani si transactional model of communication is your crush number 2. Now, let's say nga na-crush ka ana imong crush number 2 mainly because it has a quality nga wala sa imuhang unang crush, which is the unsa gati wala si Shannon Weaver's model? Yes, it has no feedback. So, meaning to say, kato si crush number 1 kay Snabera. Di siya managadi mo. But this time, you found someone better. Someone who can actually pay attention to you. Someone who can really give you what you truly desire. So, this model, which is the transactional model, already has the element of feedback. So, meaning to say, kani si crush number 2, mo reply na gyud siya sa imong mga message. Okay? Now, let's look at the flow of this model. As you can see, it almost has the same elements with the Shannon and Weaver's model. It has the element of sender, which encodes the message. It also has the element of receiver, which decodes the message. It has channel and noise. But what makes this model unique and special is that it already has the element of feedback, meaning to say dili na boring in yung conversation because the sender and the receiver already takes turn in sending a message. So that's all you have to remember. This model, which is the transactional model, already has the element of feedback. Questions? So if you have some clarifications about this model, you can ask me tomorrow. Now let's proceed to the last model of communication, which is the Osgood-Scram's model of communication. Now the first principle of this model is that communication was circular rather than linear, meaning to say it requires two participants taking turns in sending and receiving a message. So this is just the same with the transactional model, wherein the receiver already gives his or her feedback to the message sent to him by the sender. Take this for example. Hi, are you a new student here? Yes, I am. By the way, I'm Amy. How about you? I'm Rick. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. As you can observe from the example, both the sender and the receiver takes turn in sending a message. So from sender to receiver, then the receiver becomes the sender, and then the sender becomes the receiver in an instant. So murag nag-form og circle ang flow sa communication. That is why it's considered as a circular model of communication. Next, in Oscar Graham's model, encoding and decoding plays a vital role. You are familiar with these two elements, right? Again, encoding refers to the process of using words, symbols, and signals in conveying your message, while decoding is the process of getting meaning from the words, symbols, and signals given to you. So, according to this model, Dao, these two elements are very important for an effective communication to take place. So, if you do not know how to encode or how to decode effectively, the correct information will not flow from one person to another person. Meaning to say, di ihapon mo magkasinabot. Let's go back to our example the other day. Can you still remember this? Katong gigutom ka and you want to eat a burger? Okay, so let's have this scenario again. Let's say gigutom na sad ka and then you want to eat a burger and you want to tell your girlfriend about it. So, nituol ka niya and you said, "Babe, I want to eat some pizza. Can you buy me one, please?" But instead of saying that you want to eat a burger, you said pizza. Kay naglipog ka unsay burger o unsay pizza. So, ang nasabtan sa imong uyab is you want to eat a pizza. So you see, there was an error or a barrier in the communication process because the sender was not able to encode his message correctly. And because of that, misunderstanding occurred. So, ang ending, maawayan jud kasi mo uyab kay wala ka nagtarong og sulti. Did you get my point? And since you were not able to encode your message correctly, then the process of encoding failed. Crystal? Okay, now let's have another scenario again. Let's say gigutom na sad ka, kay ganahan lagi ka mo kaon og burger. O pag kita naghuman ani. So, you told your girlfriend that you want to eat a burger. You said, "Babe, I want to eat some burger. Can you buy me one, please?" But the problem this time is, tanga-tanga imong uyab. Pag ingon nimo nga, ganahan ka mo kaon og burger, ang iyang na-imagine is pizza. Kay naglibog siya unsay burger o unsay pizza. So ang ending, mag-away na sa balik because the receiver was not able to decode the message correctly. So there was another error in the communication process kay wala kasabot ang imuhang gisultian. Okay? So motto, according to Oscar Graham's model of communication, encoding and decoding are two essential and critical processes to achieve an effective communication. So, as you can observe, both these scenarios earlier did not achieve an effective communication. Next, in Oscar Graham's model of communication, messages require interpretation because communication is not just simply passing information from a sender to a receiver. Instead, messages should be analyzed and interpreted for them to be understood. That is why we have the process of interpretation. However, a lot of messages can be misunderstood, especially if we do not share the same values, beliefs, and background knowledge with other people. That is why, in Oscar Graham's model of communication, it includes the element of field of experience. This incorporates what is mutually understood between the sender and receiver. This refers to the things that influences the understanding and interpretation of messages like culture, social background, beliefs, experiences, values, and rules. Meaning to say, effective communication will only occur if both the sender and the receiver understand what they are talking about. Meaning to say, dali na sila makarelate sa usag-usa. Say for example, you are a jolly person and then you like adventure, you like having fun all the time. And then you met two people in your school. The first one is a nerd one, while the second one is a happy-go-lucky one. And remember, you like having fun all the time. So if you are to choose, kang kinsa man ka mas makarelate nilang duha? Of course, you will choose the happy-go-lucky one because there are some things about her that you can relate. That means your field of experience is somewhat mutual because you just want to have fun in your life. Understood? Okay, let's have another example. A teacher teaching calculus to kindergarten students. What do you think is the problem in this situation? Yes, the thought of teaching calculus to kindergarten students. Usa man si alam mag-anang mga bataa, di ba? Maglisod maganig sabot ang senior high sa calculus, kindergarten na bakaha. So meaning to say in this situation, effective communication did not take place because the teacher's background knowledge is higher compared to the kindergarten students. So motto, according to Oscar's Graham's model, the field of experience should also be considered when communicating with other people. Now let's look at the model. As you can see, this model involves a circular communication wherein each person is both a sender and a receiver, and they take turn in communicating with one another. So the sender acts as the encoder who sends the message, while the receiver acts as the decoder who understands the message. And in order for them to interpret the message correctly, they should share the same field of experience. Understood? I hope yes. So to wrap it up, this model gives primarily focus on encoding, decoding, and interpretation. And take note, since the start of the message, there is an interpretation going on. Questions? Okay, so that's it. Those are the three basic and common communication models. So just a reminder, Shannon and Weaver's model of communication, it has no feedback. Next, the transactional model of communication, it already has a feedback. And the last one, which is the Oscar-Graham's model of communication, includes the concept of field of experience, and it gives primarily focus on the process of encoding and decoding. So those are the three basic and common communication models. So if you have some clarifications, feel free to ask me tomorrow during our oral graded recitation. And that ends our video for today. So I hope you learned something from this. Thank you and goodbye.